All coincidences with real people are random. If they tell you that this is not the case, ignore them. Deadpool woke up in a junkyard inside an empty refrigerator. For most people, this would be a strange and horrible way to start the day, but for Wade Wilson, it was almost routine. He opened the door, stretched his legs, and climbed out, stretching like a cat after a long nap. "Good morning, garbage world," he exclaimed, greeting the first sunlight. He pulled on his famous red and black mask and headed to the nearest bar to meet his friends. At the uninvited guest bar, the usual chaos reigned: conversations, laughter, and fights. Wade felt at home, enjoying his share of burgers and beer. Everything was normal until a stranger walked in. The man was dressed in an old-fashioned black cloak that hid his face. He sat at the bar and ordered a glass of water. No one paid attention to him, except Deadpool. Wade had a strange feeling that this man would bring trouble. Deadpool approached the stranger, his curiosity surpassing all reasonable limits. "Hey dude, you look like an extra from a gothic novel." "What's your name?" he asked, tilting his head to the side theatrically. The stranger slowly turned his head, and Deadpool saw his face pale, with deep shadows under his eyes. "My name doesn't matter. What's important is that I need your help." "Oh sure, man. Always happy to help," Deadpool replied, grinning. "What's on your mind?" "Bank robbery. Saving a kitten from a tree." "It's something much more serious," the stranger said. "A dark force is emerging in the city. It destroys everything in its path, and even you, Deadpool, may not be able to handle it." Deadpool laughed, brushing off thoughts of dark forces and prophecies. Yeah, spooky stories for kids. "Let's go. Show me this dark force, and we'll deal with it." The stranger did not smile. "This is no joke. You must be prepared for the worst." Together, they left the bar and headed to an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. A strange, ominous atmosphere hung in the air, as if the place itself radiated evil. The stranger stopped in front of heavy metal doors and gestured for Deadpool to enter. "Prepare yourself for what you are about to see," the stranger said, opening the doors. The factory turned out to be a labyrinth of dark corridors and abandoned rooms. Deadpool felt his usual cheerfulness disappear, replaced by a cold sense of fear. He knew this was not just another enemy or trap. In the center of the factory was a huge room filled with strange artifacts and symbols. In the center of the room was an altar on which lay a strange creature covered in shadow and viscous black smoke. It emitted sounds that made blood freeze in veins. "Is this the dark force?" Deadpool asked, feeling his laughter turn to fear. "Yes," the stranger replied. "This creature devours souls and destroys everything in its path. Even your regeneration might be useless." Deadpool approached the altar, examining the creature. It was enormous, its forms constantly changing like a shadow within a shadow. Suddenly, the creature broke free from its restraints, and the room filled with a deafening roar. "Okay, buddy, you've definitely had something bad to eat," Deadpool muttered, drawing his katanas. The creature moved towards him with incredible speed. Deadpool managed to land a few blows, but they passed through the dark matter, doing no harm. Suddenly, one of the creature's tentacles wrapped around his arm and began to squeeze. The pain was unbearable. "Damn. That really hurts," Deadpool screamed, trying to break free. The creature lifted him into the air, its face just inches from Deadpool's. Suddenly, the creature's dark eyes flared with a bright light, and Deadpool felt his mind begin to disintegrate. After the creature released him, Deadpool collapsed to the ground, his body shaking with pain. The stranger ran to him, helping him up. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice full of concern. "No, I'm definitely not okay," Deadpool replied, his voice trembling. "This isn't an ordinary creature. It's somehow affecting my mind. He felt his thoughts start to jumble, dark images and nightmares filling his consciousness. He heard voices whispering to him that he would never be able to defeat this creature, that his life was over. "You must fight this," the stranger said. "If you give up, this creature will consume you and everyone else." Deadpool tried to focus, but the darkness was too strong. He began to see visions of his old enemies, his friends, and loved ones dying before his eyes. His mind slowly but surely descended into madness. Each day became worse. Deadpool tried to fight the darkness, but it grew stronger. He became more aggressive and uncontrollable, lashing out at his allies and friends. His mental state deteriorated, and he began to lose control of his actions. He often spent time locked in his apartment, surrounded by bottles of alcohol and empty pill packages. The voices in his head grew louder, and the nightmares more realistic. He knew he was losing himself, but didn't know how to stop it. One night, as he sat in the darkness of his room, the darkness attacked again. He felt his mind completely enveloped in darkness, and he could no longer resist. At that moment, he realized he had lost. Deadpool decided to return to the factory and face the creature one last time. He knew it would be his final fight, but he couldn't just sit and watch the darkness consume him. He gathered all his strength and headed there. When he entered the room with the altar, the creature was already waiting for him. It looked even more sinister and powerful than before. Deadpool drew his katanas and prepared for battle. "Let's dance one last time, monster," he said, his voice filled with determination. The battle was brutal. Deadpool fought with all his might, but the darkness was too strong. The creature wrapped its tentacles around him, landing blows he couldn't avoid. Each touch of the creature caused him unbearable pain, both physical and mental. Eventually, Deadpool's strength gave out. He fell to his knees, his body covered in wounds, his mind completely shattered. The creature approached him, ready to deliver the final blow. "You've lost it," whispered, its voice a sinister murmur. "Maybe," Deadpool replied, his voice weak, "but I fought till the end." The creature lifted Deadpool high above the ground, his body hanging lifelessly. In Deadpool's eyes, there was nothing but emptiness. The creature radiated darkness that enveloped everything around it, swallowing light and hope. The next morning, the factory site was nothing but a scorched wasteland. People who once knew Deadpool searched for him, but all they found were the remnants of a destroyed altar and traces of a bloody battle. "He's gone," one of them said, looking at the ruined remains of the altar. "But we know he fought to the end." For the world, there was no more Deadpool the mad mercenary with regeneration and a sarcastic sense of humor. His story ended in darkness that he could not defeat, but his legacy continued to live on, reminding everyone that even the strongest heroes can face enemies they cannot conquer. A few weeks later, a group of heroes who had learned of Deadpool's fall gathered to pay their last respects. They stood at the site of the battle, feeling the presence of the darkness that once dwelt there. "He was a madman," one of them said, looking at the destroyed remains of the altar. "But he was our friend." They held a moment of silence, bowing their heads respectfully. In their hearts remained the memory of Deadpool, a man who fought to his last breath, even when everything was against him. His spirit lived on in their memories, reminding them that strength lies not only in victory but in the struggle itself. The stranger who once came to Deadpool for help stood in the shadows, watching the heroes. He knew that the darkness had not completely disappeared. It would always exist, waiting for the next moment to remind everyone of its presence. "You did everything you could," Wade whispered, turning to leave. "You fought like a true hero." With these words, the stranger vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only the memory of Deadpool, a hero who never gave up, even in the face of inevitable doom.